Thank you for tuning in to Chef Boyardee's, another foodgasmic experience. And today we're going to be doing mini pot roast with a very creamy whipped potato. A nice garnish. Strictly meat potatoes today. Leave your comments, like, share, come back for some more. You know, sometimes it's best to have fresh ingredients. And there is nothing like having fresh herbs, spices. They do something to your food. It's the best way I could put it to you. It's just something different about fresh herbs and spices. And that's what we'll need for today's dish. So we will definitely make sure that we get a few pieces of sage, a little Thai basil, a little oregano for the dish tonight. Stay tuned to see what we do next. It's time to get this adventure underway. One thing I will say, I love holding on to jars. You know, you can always repurpose glass jars. Sterilize them, clean them, you can keep them. And that's what I use for a lot of the drippings. Pot roast or chicken, separate them individually so that I can have stocks to use going forward. Just let them sit in the refrigerator. I'll go ahead and separate. The fat will come to the top, the liquid's left at the bottom. You take that fat out, and then you got the liquid ready to use. That way you can keep things like this. Last pot roast I made was able to keep those beef drippings. Be ready. And the stock is what I'm going to use as the base for the dish that we're making today. Well, we've had the crock pot going for a while, making sure that it's heated up. I'm going to go ahead and add in the stock so we can get things popping today. Let's go on and get that poured in. We don't want too much, just a little bit. And that way, things can start getting flavorful. Went ahead and picked out my herbs, a little sage, a little oregano, a little Thai basil. You want to make sure that you always wash them off first, especially if you're picking them out of the garden. You don't want anything from outside on your food outside of what it is that you pick. So we're going to go ahead and just drop everything in there. And it is okay that it is still whole. We actually want it to still be whole. Let it cook down. It's going to stay. And this will actually add a little more character and flavor to the dish that we're cooking today. So now it's time to get out pot roast. Now we're not going to cook it like I would traditionally cook it, like you've probably seen in some of the other videos. We're going to be portioning it out, making sure we sear it on both sides so we can trap in the juices. And I've gone ahead and let it marinate overnight in its own juices, along with some coriander seed, some rosemary, a little thyme. And after we portion it out, sear it, we can go ahead and place it in the crock pot. We're going to add our peppers, a little bay leaf into each one of those sections, and let it cook. I'll show you what we'll put together with it afterwards. So as you can see, we've got it cut up into 6 individual portions. Perfect. We'll be ready to go ahead and put this on, and so that we can help keep the meat together when we put it in the crock pot during the cooking process. Took some skewers, got them wet, made sure there were no splinters in them, and we went through each of the pieces, squeezing them tight, and then sitting the skewers through so they could hold together tightly. And what we're going to do afterwards is move it right on over here, sear them on both the tops and the bottoms, as opposed to all the way around like I normally would, especially since we have the skewers in there. I'm going to be adding a couple other things to this dish, and as opposed to using butter or oil like we normally would, I'm going to use some of the beef fat that was on top of the stock that we had sitting in the refrigerator. We go ahead and separate the stock and the fat out. We just had the stock. But sometimes using some of that fat, because it still retains a lot of that flavor from the previous thing that we had made with it, and it'll really help to keep the flavor profile of this dish together. So let's go ahead and get some of this fat. Go ahead and let it melt down a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get each of our pieces on there so we can get this party started. So we got these on there now. And we'll let them sit for about 3 to 5 minutes on each side just so we can try to seal them, keep that flavor in. Almost all the hard work is almost done. And afterwards, when we hit the crock pot, you chill for a little bit. And like I said, the flavor profile of this dish is going to be a little different than what we normally do. So, first thing we're going to do, we're going to take a half a cup of brown sugar. We're going to take a tablespoon of ground cloves. We're going to take us just a little salt, not too much. About a half a teaspoon. So we'll go ahead and mix this together so we could add it to the crock pot. We're going ahead and toss them over on the other side. As you can see, got a nice searing brown on them, and we want it to be like that on both sides. And this is our dry mixture. We're going to make sure it's stirred well. Once we go ahead and add this, it'll go ahead and dissolve down into the broth that we already have in the crock pot. And it's already smelling good. We're going to go ahead and drop that dry mixture in. We'll go ahead and give it a stir so we know that it gets a chance to fully dissolve. And then we'll add our meat. We'll be ready to let this cook. Now for the final thing that we'll add in and go with the meat, we'll give it a little zest, a little tartness to go with some of that sweet. And that's a lemon. We're going to take half of this lemon, we'll slice it up, de-seed it, so you don't have seeds in there. And we'll be adding it in. And then we'll add the meat on top. Go ahead and place each of the pieces into the crock pot. I want to make sure that they are sitting flat, sitting here snug. And we're going to go ahead and place each of the lemon slices in between the pieces of meat. Alright, so we got the lemon slices in there. It's time to put the top on there. We will let this cook for about 4 to 6 hours. Probably around 5. It really just depends on the size of your roast and then also how tender you want it to be. The longer it cooks, the longer it's going to suck up and really take in the flavors that we've incorporated in this dish. So we'll go ahead and turn it on. We'll go for 4 hours right now. We'll start it off on high. And we're going to have it on high for this first hour. And after this first hour, we're going to go ahead and drop the temperature down to low for the last 3 hours. Okay, so that first hour on high is over. So now we're going to go ahead and open it up, flip these over, and then let it finish for the other 3 to 4 hours on low. Alright, yeah, let's get ready to get these flipped. Oh man, that aroma, that clove and the rosemary, the lemon, it smells so good right now. Alright, we getting down to less than an hour left on the mini roast cooking. So now it's time to start the potatoes. So we can make, I guess you could say, the starch that'll go with this. Potatoes will be a little different than normal. Won't be your normal mashed potato. It'll be real creamy, almost like a bisque or a soup. And that's what the mini roast will sit on, and then we'll do the garnish. All right, so we've got our full potatoes. Go ahead and get them washed first. After we get them washed, we get them peeled. We get them peeled, get them chopped up, we get them in some water, get this process started. All right, while we're getting the potatoes peeled and chopped, we'll go ahead and put on the water for the potatoes. They can boil. Add a little salt, which helps with the boiling process. Throw us a few bay leaves in the water as well, and they're going to boil with the potatoes. Get a very unique taste and fragrance. So we got our potatoes peeled, chopped, and then you want to make sure you rinse them to get any excess dirt and impurities off of them. And then we'll add them to the water and let them boil. It take them approximately 15 to 20 minutes, maybe a little longer depending on the size of your potatoes. But you want to make sure that they are soft so that when we begin the next step with the potatoes, they're a lot easier to work with. There's nothing worse than raw potatoes. It looks like the potatoes are ready, and if you are ever in doubt, you can take a knife or a fork and just go to press down on one of them lightly. If it starts breaking apart, then you are where you need to be. If it's not budging, they need to be in that water a little longer. You're going to get ready to take them out of there so you can get them drained and start this next part of the process. Now, for a lot of people, they're probably wondering, why 2/3 cup instead of a full cup? It's because what you want to also do is leave about 1/3 a cup of the water that the potatoes were cooking in, so you have that starch. It will help thicken it a little bit, at the same time help it with its creamy texture. Everybody doesn't have the time to go ahead and dry out some basil, some oregano, some sage, so if you do have some Italian seasoning at your house, dry herbs, you can use a teaspoon of that, place it in, and then add you some salt so you can salt it to taste. Let's get this blended up. This is the consistency that we want. It should just slide right off of the fork. If it doesn't, you can add you a little more milk, a little bit at a time. But this is the consistency that we want for this particular dish. Those that know me, you ever seen any of my dishes, you know that I'm a real big fan of color. So I'm going to be using small yellow sweet pepper. Getting it sliced up in long strips. We'll saute it lightly in a little butter, and that will be part of the garnish, along with some of the fresh sage. The sage you're not supposed to eat, it's just that it look pretty. So we got our pepper sliced up. Like I said, you want to have it in strips, like this. And you can use anything for a garnish if you want to have a garnish. Other times I've made this, I've used, baby spinach, sauteed it in a little butter, or maybe asparagus set across the top. It's your vegetable or green beans. But today I'm just doing a strictly meat and potatoes type of dish. So it won't be any greens associated to this particular meal today. This is not going to require a lot of time or butter at all. Before we get ready to plate, I want to get the garnish ready to put on there. Go ahead and wash off my fresh sage so we can have it placed on top. So we're ready to start plating. I'll show you just a few things. I'm going to plate it, and then we'll see the finished product. We'll work on plating another day. But when you're spooning in the potatoes, you drop them in. You want to just move from the center out until you get the space covered. And in the middle is where we'll put the meat. Got the meat down. Just come over with a little broth. Put on as much or as little as you like. Now we go. Finished dish. Fragrant. And ready to eat. Catch me right back here next time for another foodgasmic experience with Chef Boyardee. Melts in your mouth, not in your hand.